Captain Elena Vasquez stared out the window of her ship at something she had never seen before. The stars looked wrong. Instead of the bright points of light she knew from Earth, these stars flickered red and orange. Some went dark for seconds at a time, then came back to life. "What are we looking at?" she asked her science officer. "Energy weapons fire, Captain," Lieutenant Chen replied, his voice quiet with shock. "Those flashes are ships exploding. The dark spots are where whole solar systems have gone dead." Elena felt her stomach drop. Her ship, the exploration vessel New Horizon, had just made humanity's first jump beyond their home solar system. They expected to find empty space, maybe some planets to study. Instead, they found a war zone that stretched across the galaxy. The communication system crackled to life. A voice spoke in a language Elena had never heard, but somehow she understood it. The ship's computer was translating. "Unknown vessel, you are entering a combat zone. State your allegiance. Are you Zephyrian or Hegemony? Answer quickly or we will fire." Elena looked at her crew. They were all young, all excited about making first contact with alien life. Now they faced the possibility of being shot down before they could even say hello. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the human vessel New Horizon," she broadcast back. "We are not Zephyrian or Hegemony. We are humans from the planet Earth. We mean no harm." There was a long silence. Then the voice came back, sounding confused. "Human? We have no record of this species. Stand by for boarding." Elena's hands moved to the weapon controls, but she stopped herself. They were explorers, not warriors. If they started shooting now, humanity's first contact with alien life would be a battle. "All hands prepare for boarding," she announced over the ship's speakers. "Do not draw weapons unless I give the order." The alien ship was massive compared to the New Horizon. It looked like it was made of crystal, all sharp edges and glowing surfaces. As it came closer, Elena could see burn marks and cracks along its hull. This ship had been in many battles. The boarding tube connected with a soft thud. Elena waited at the airlock with two of her officers. The door opened and three beings stepped through. Elena had to force herself not to step back. The aliens were tall and thin, made of what looked like living crystal. Light moved through their bodies like blood through veins. Their leader wore armor that seemed to be grown rather than built. "I am Warsinger Cathera of the Zephyrian Defense Fleet," the leader said. Her voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "You claim to be human. We have never heard of your species." "We have never heard of yours either," Elena replied. "Until today we thought we were alone in the universe." Kithra tilted her head. The light inside her body pulsed faster. "Impossible. The galaxy has been mapped for thousands of years. Every species is either Zephyrian, Hegemony, or dead." Elena's science officer stepped forward. "Perhaps we come from outside the war zone," he suggested. "Our planet is in what we call the Milky Way galaxy, in a region you might consider empty space." "War zone?" Cathara's light pulsed even faster. "Child, there is no place in this galaxy that is not a war zone. The Void War has raged for 300 years. It touches every star, every world." Elena felt the weight of those words. A war that lasted 3 centuries. On Earth, their longest wars had been decades, and those had nearly destroyed whole continents. How could anyone fight for 300 years? "Tell me about this war," Elena said. Cathera's light dimmed. For the first time, she seemed tired. "Come," she said. "You should see." The crystal beings led Elena and her officers through their ship. The walls were alive with light, and Elena could hear something like music in the air. But everything was damaged. Cracks ran through the crystal walls. Some sections were dark where the light had died. They reached a large chamber filled with what looked like floating screens made of light. Each screen showed a different scene of battle. Elena saw ships the size of cities firing beams of energy at each other. She saw planets burning. She saw fleets of thousands of vessels locked in combat that seemed to go on forever. "This is the Zarian front," Kithra said, pointing to one screen. "The battle has raged there for 47 years. Neither side can gain ground." Elena watched ships explode and be replaced by new ones over and over. It was like watching the same movie play again and again. "The Hegemony attacks with bioships," Kithera explained. "Living vessels that can repair themselves and adapt to our weapons. We respond with quantum disruptors that tear apart their molecular bonds. They counter with adaptive armor that learns to resist our attacks. We develop new weapons. They adapt again." Another screen showed a different battle. This one looked even worse. The space around a red star was filled with debris from destroyed ships. More ships kept arriving and adding to the graveyard. "This is Battleground 7, Kythera continued. "The same moon has been captured and lost by both sides over 900 times. The surface is nothing but craters now." Elena stared at the screens. On Earth, wars ended when one side won or when both sides got tired of fighting. But these battles look like they could go on forever. "Why don't you just stop?" she asked. Kythera's light flashed bright red. "Stop? The hegemony started this war when they tried to consume our homeworlds. They turned living beings into machines, flesh into metal. They must be stopped. And what do the hegemony say about you? They claim we are trying to enslave all organic life with our crystal technology. They say we want to turn the galaxy into a giant computer with ourselves as the processors." Kythera's voice carried sadness now. "Perhaps they are not entirely wrong." Elena walked to another screen. This one showed what looked like a space station, but it was enormous. "Bigger than Earth's moon, what is that?" "Concordia Prime, the neutral station where the Galactic Council meets. They have been trying to end the war for 200 years. Every species in the galaxy has offered solutions. Every solution has failed." On the screen, Elena could see ships from dozens of different species docked at the station. Some looked like metal insects. Others appeared to be made of living plants. A few seemed to be constructed from pure energy. "The greatest minds in the galaxy work there," Kythera said. "Scientists who can create new stars. Strategists who can predict the outcome of battles 1,000 years in advance. Diplomats who have ended wars that lasted millennia. But they can't end this one? They say it is mathematically impossible. The Zephyrian and hegemony technologies are too perfectly matched. Every weapon has a perfect counter. Every strategy has a perfect response. The war has reached what they call an eternal stalemate." Elena studied the battle screens again. She was not a scientist or a strategist, but she was a ship captain. She had trained at Earth's Naval Academy, where they studied every war in human history. Something about these battles looked wrong to her. "Kythera, can you show me how your ships fight?" The crystal being waved her hand. One of the screens changed to show a tactical display. Blue dots represented Zephyrian ships. Red dots were hegemony vessels. "We maintain formation at maximum weapon range," Kythera explained. "Our energy shields can deflect their plasma weapons, so we exchange fire until one side's shields fail." Elena watched the blue and red dots move in perfect patterns, like dancers who had practiced the same routine for centuries. "What about close combat? Ramming attacks? Surprise strikes?" Kythera looked confused. "Those tactics were abandoned centuries ago. They are ineffective against modern defenses. The optimal strategy is to maintain maximum firepower at maximum range while minimizing exposure to enemy weapons." Elena nodded, but her mind was racing. On Earth, military tactics changed constantly. Armies that did the same thing over and over again always lost to armies that tried new approaches. But these aliens had been doing the same thing for 300 years. "Kythera, my people are very new to space travel. We have never seen a war like this. But we have fought many wars on our own world. Primitive conflicts, no doubt," Kythera said gently. "Ground battles with simple weapons." Elena smiled. "Yes, very primitive. We still use weapons that throw pieces of metal at each other. We fight in mud and snow. Our soldiers carry packs on their backs and march on foot." Kythera's light pulsed with what might have been amusement. "How quaint." "But we win our wars," Elena said quietly. The chamber fell silent. Kythera stared at the human captain. "What do you mean?" "Our wars end. One side wins, one side loses. Sometimes both sides decide to stop fighting and make peace. But they end." Elena pointed at the battle screens. "You have been fighting the same battles in the same places with the same tactics for 300 years. On Earth, we would call that insanity." Kythera's light dimmed again. "But what choice do we have?" "The hegemony. We'll always have the perfect counter to your attacks, just like you always have the perfect counter to theirs." Elena walked closer to the crystal being. "You are not fighting a war. You are performing a dance, a very deadly dance that neither of you knows how to stop." For a long moment, nobody spoke. The screens continued to show the same battles, the same explosions, the same endless cycle of destruction. Finally, Kythera spoke. "Your species is very young. You do not understand the complexities of galactic warfare." "Maybe not," Elena agreed, "but we understand how to end fights." Elena looked around the chamber at the screens full of eternal battles. An idea was forming in her mind. A dangerous, probably stupid idea. But on Earth, The best military commanders were often the ones who came up with dangerous, stupid ideas that somehow worked. "Kythera, I want to go to Concordia Prime," she said. "I want to speak to this Galactic Council." "Impossible. Humans are not members of the galactic community. You have no standing to address the Council." "Then I will ask for standing." Elena smiled. After all, if the greatest minds in the galaxy cannot solve this problem, maybe it is time to ask someone very, very stupid to try. Kythera stared at the human captain for a long time. Her light pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. Finally she spoke. "Your ship is too small and too primitive to make the journey to Concordia Prime alone. The war zones are dangerous." Elena waited. "However," Kythera continued, "my fleet is heading to the neutral station for resupply. We could provide escort if you truly wish to make this foolish journey." "I do." "Then you will see for yourself why this war cannot be ended. The Council will listen to you as they listen to all beings who claim to have solutions. Then you will understand why the Void War is eternal." Elena nodded and headed back to her ship. As she walked through the airlock, she looked back at Kythera. "Maybe I will understand," she said. "Or maybe I will prove you wrong." Behind her, the screens continued to show the same battles that had raged for 300 years. Ships exploded and were replaced. Territory changed hands and changed back. The dance of death continued, just as it had for longer than any human civilization had existed. But Elena Vasquez was thinking about something Kythera had said. The greatest minds in the galaxy had failed to end this war. Perhaps what the galaxy needed was not a great mind, but a different one, a human mind, shaped by a species that had learned to win wars instead of just fighting them. The journey to Concordia Prime would take weeks. Elena had that long to study the war, to understand it and to figure out what everyone else had missed. She was just one human captain with a small ship and a crew of explorers. Against the greatest military powers in the galaxy, she had no chance at all. But that had never stopped humans before. Ambassador Chen Wei had never seen anything like Concordia Prime. The space station was bigger than Earth's moon, built from metals that seemed to shift color in the starlight. Ships from across the galaxy docked at its many ports. Some looked like living creatures. Others appeared to be made of pure energy held together by force fields. Chen stood on the observation deck of the New Horizon, watching the impossible variety of vessels coming and going. In the 3 weeks since they had left Earth, he had learned more about the galaxy than humanity had ever dreamed possible. And all of it was terrible. "Nervous?" Captain Vasquez asked, joining him at the window. "Terrified," Chen admitted. "In a few hours I have to address the most powerful beings in the galaxy, and somehow convince them to listen to a species they have never heard of." Elena smiled. "Look at it this way. If you fail, at least you will make history as the first human to be laughed out of a Galactic Council meeting." Chen did not find this comforting. The docking process took 2 hours. Concordia Prime was so large that it had its own gravity and atmosphere. The human delegation walked through corridors that stretched beyond sight, past beings that looked like walking trees, floating jellyfish, and robots made of liquid metal. Their escort was a member of the Altarian Collective, a species that looked like a cross between a dolphin and a spider. It moved on 6 legs but had smooth gray skin and intelligent dark eyes. "The Council is very curious about your species," the Altarian said. Its voice came from a translator device around its neck. "In 300 years of war, no new spacefaring species has been discovered. We have been busy fighting each other," Chen explained. "It took us a long time to learn how to work together long enough to reach the stars." Fascinating. Most species achieve space travel only after they have unified their world government. Chen thought about the dozens of nations on Earth, all with their own armies and their own ideas about how things should be done. Humans are not very good at unifying. "That may work in your favor today," the Altarian said. "The Council has tried every form of unified thinking. Perhaps divided thinking will offer new perspectives." They entered a vast chamber that took Chen's breath away. The ceiling disappeared into darkness high above. The walls were covered in screens showing battles across the galaxy. In the center of the room stood a circular platform with seats for hundreds of beings. Most of the seats were filled. Chen saw creatures he could not even begin to describe. Some were clearly organic. Others appeared to be machines, and a few looked like they were made of pure thought given form. "The emergency session of the Galactic Council will come to order," announced a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. We are here to discuss the petition from the species calling itself human. Chen walked to the center of the platform, feeling very small. Elena had wanted to come with him, but only one representative was allowed to address the council. State your name and credentials, the voice commanded. I am Ambassador Chenwei of Earth. I represent humanity in our first contact with the galactic community. A murmur ran through the assembled beings. One creature that looked like a tree made of silver stood up. I am Prime Root Vextalon of the Verdant Alliance. How is it possible that an unknown species has achieved faster than light travel? Chen had prepared for this question. Our planet is located in what you might consider the galactic fringe. We developed our technology independently. Another being spoke up. This one looked like a giant insect made of blue crystal. I am Hivemind Zectron of the Christek Dominion. What technology did you use to achieve faster than light travel? We call it the Alcubierre drive, Chen explained. We compress space in front of our ships and expand it behind them. The chamber fell silent. Then everyone started talking at once. The translator in Chen's ear could barely keep up with all the different languages. Finally, the commanding voice restored order. The Alcubierre principle was theorized by many species but deemed impossible to implement. How did humans succeed where others failed? Chen took a deep breath. We are very good at building things that should not work. This caused another stir. A being that looked like a living cloud of gas drifted forward. I am Atmospheric Consciousness Varix of the Gas Giant Collective. You claim your species has experience with warfare. What conflicts have you fought? Chen had also prepared for this question, but he still felt nervous answering it. We have fought thousands of wars over our history. Our planet has never been at peace for more than a few decades at a time. Thousands? The tree creature stood up again. That is impossible. No species can survive that level of conflict. Humans are very good at surviving things that should kill us, Chen said. The insect being buzzed loudly. This is irrelevant. The human species may be interesting, but they cannot possibly help with the Void War. They have not even unified their own world. That is exactly why they might help, said a new voice. Chen turned to see a being he recognized from the historical files Cathera had shown them. This was Mediator Krell of the Synthesis, the most respected peacekeeper in the galaxy. Krell looked like a combination of every species Chen had seen, as if someone had taken parts from different beings and assembled them into a new form. It had wings like an insect, arms like a mammal, skin like a reptile, and eyes that seemed to contain swirling galaxies. The human representative has not yet stated his purpose, Krell said. Ambassador Chen, why are you here? Chen looked around the chamber at hundreds of alien faces. Some showed curiosity, others showed suspicion, and a few showed what looked like contempt. I am here because we have heard about your war, Chen said. 300 years of conflict that spans the galaxy. Millions of dead worlds, billions of casualties, and no end in sight. Every species in the galaxy knows this, the gas being said impatiently. What do humans propose to do about it? Chen straightened his shoulders. We want to help end it. The chamber erupted and what his translator told him was laughter from a dozen different species. The sound was not pleasant. Silence. Mediator Krell's voice cut through the noise. The laughter died away. Ambassador Chen, please explain how a species that has not even achieved galactic travel plans to end a war, that has defeated the greatest minds in the known universe. This was the moment Chen had been dreading and hoping for. Everything Elena had discussed with him during the journey came down to this. Because we are not the greatest minds in the universe, Chen said. We are not the most advanced species or the most powerful. We do not have the best technology or the strongest weapons, but we have something you do not have. And what is that? Krell asked. We know how to win wars. The chamber fell completely silent. Even the background hum of the station's machinery seemed quiet. The silver tree spoke first. Absurd. Every species knows how to win wars. Chen shook his head. No, they know how to fight wars. Fighting and winning are different things. He gestured to the screens showing the endless battles. You have been fighting the same war in the same way for 3 centuries. The same tactics, the same strategies, the same results. On Earth, we would call that the definition of failure. The crystal insect buzzed angrily. The war continues because the Zephyrian and hegemony technologies are perfectly matched. Neither side can achieve decisive victory. That is exactly the problem, Chen said. You have turned war into a science. You calculate the optimal moves, the perfect counters, the most efficient strategies. But war is not a science. War is chaos. Mediator Krell leaned forward. Explain. Chen thought about all the military history he had studied. The great battles, the turning points, the moments when everything changed. On Earth, the armies that won were not always the armies with the best weapons or the most soldiers. They were the armies that did something unexpected, something their enemies could not prepare for. Randomness is not strategy, the tree being said. It is when your enemy has a perfect counter for every strategy you can think of, Chen replied. The Zephyrians and the hegemony have been fighting each other for so long that they know each other perfectly. Every move has a countermove. Every weapon has a defense. Chen walked to one of the screens showing a battle. Look at this. Zephyrian crystal ships in perfect formation, firing quantum disruptors at optimal range. Hegemony bioships responding with adaptive plasma weapons from optimal defensive positions. It is like watching a chess game where both players know every possible move. Chess is an Earth game, Krell said. Please explain the analogy. It is a game where two players try to capture each other's king using different pieces that move in specific patterns. Good players can predict what their opponent will do many moves ahead. Chen turned back to the assembled beings. But what happens when one player suddenly changes the rules? When they move a piece in a way that should not be possible, when they do something that is not in any strategy book, they would be disqualified for cheating, the gas being said. In a game, yes. But war is not a game. In war, the side that changes the rules wins. A new voice spoke up. Chen turned to see a being he had not noticed before. It was small and looked almost human, except for its silver skin and the fact that it seemed to be slightly transparent. I am Archive Keeper Null of the Memory Worlds, it said. We have recorded every battle of the Void War. The patterns are indeed rigid. But how does your species propose to break them? Chen took a deep breath. This was the dangerous part. By doing what humans do best. By being unpredictable. By using weapons and tactics that do not fit into your calculated responses. Such as, Mediator Krell asked. Kinetic weapons. Chemical explosives. Projectile firearms. Ramming attacks. Guerrilla tactics. Psychological warfare. Chen paused. Things that are primitive by your standards but completely outside the weapon systems both sides have prepared for. The chamber was quiet again. Chen could see some of the beings exchanging glances. Finally, the crystal insect spoke. These are obsolete technologies. Energy shields can deflect solid projectiles. Bioarmor can resist chemical explosives. Can they? Chen asked. Have they ever been tested? In 300 years of war, has anyone ever fired a simple bullet at a Zephyrian energy shield? Another long silence. The human makes an interesting point, Mediator Krell said slowly. Both sides have evolved their defenses specifically to counter each other's energy-based weapons. It would not matter, the tree being said. Primitive weapons cannot compete with modern technology. Chen smiled. On Earth, we have a saying. It does not matter how advanced your spaceship is if someone puts a brick through the window. Spaceships do not have windows, the gas being pointed out. It is a metaphor, Chen explained. It means that sometimes the simplest solution is the most effective one. Archive Keeper Null flickered slightly. This approach has theoretical merit. The Void War has continued precisely because both sides have perfect counters for each other. Introducing variables they have not prepared for could disrupt the balance. It could also make the war worse, the tree being warned. Worse than 3 centuries of eternal stalemate? Chen asked. Worse than watching entire civilizations die while you debate optimal strategies? Mediator Krell stood up. Its wings spread wide, casting shadows across the platform. The human proposal is unprecedented. No outside species has ever been allowed to participate in the Void War. Because no outside species has ever offered a real solution, Chen said. You have tried everything except the one thing that might actually work. And what is that? Chen looked around the chamber one more time. At the beings who had spent centuries trying to solve an unsolvable problem. At the screens showing the same battles that had raged for longer than human civilization had existed. Admitting that maybe the greatest minds in the galaxy are thinking about this wrong, he said. Maybe what you need is not a better strategy but a completely different approach. Maybe what you need is not intelligence but stubbornness, not wisdom but willingness to try something stupid. Chen gestured to himself. We are humans. We specialize in being stupid enough to try things that cannot work. And sometimes, just sometimes, they do work. The chamber fell silent once more. Chen could hear his own heartbeat in his ears. Finally, Mediator Krill spoke. The Council will debate your proposal. You will be given quarters while we deliberate. As Chen was led away, he heard the voices of hundreds of beings beginning the greatest argument in galactic history. Some demanded that the humans be sent away immediately. Others insisted that any new approach was worth trying. A few suggested that maybe, after 300 years of failure, it was time to listen to someone who had never failed, because they had never tried. Chen did not know if humanity would get its chance to end the Void War, but he knew that for the first time in 3 centuries, the galaxy was arguing about something other than optimal tactics and perfect strategies. They were arguing about hope, and that, Chen thought, might be the most human thing of all. General Marcus Steele stood in the cargo bay of the human transport ship Determination, watching his soldiers check their equipment one more time. They did not look like the most advanced military force in the galaxy. Their armor was made of simple ceramic and steel alloys. Their weapons fired metal bullets instead of energy beams. Their communications equipment was so primitive that it could not even interface with most alien technology. But they were ready to do something that had not been done in the galaxy for 300 years. They were ready to win a war. "General, we have reached the jump point," came the voice of Commander Sarah Torres over the intercom. "The Xerian system is 20 minutes away." Marcus nodded to his troops. "You heard the commander. Final equipment check. Remember, we are not trying to match their technology. We are trying to break their patterns." The soldiers moved with practiced efficiency. Each carried a mix of human and alien technology that would have horrified the engineers on both sides of the Void War. Human assault rifles fitted with Zephyrian power cells. Hegemony bioarmor modified to work with human environmental systems. Grenades that combined human chemical explosives with alien materials that nobody fully understood. It had taken 6 months to put this force together. 6 months of arguments with the Galactic Council, negotiations with both the Zephyrian Empire and the Hegemony, and desperate attempts to create weapons that could work in the vacuum of space. The hardest part had not been the technology. The hardest part had been convincing anyone that this insane plan might actually work. Marcus remembered the meeting where it all began. Commander Torres had been studying battle recordings from the Xerian system for weeks, looking for patterns that 3 centuries of military analysts had missed. "Look at this," she had said, pointing to a tactical display. "The Zephyrian Crystal Fortress orbits the 4th planet every 47 days. The Hegemony fleet attacks exactly 6 hours after the fortress reaches its closest approach to the planet." "So?" Marcus had asked. "So they have been doing this exact same dance for 47 years. The fortress moves to the same position. The Hegemony attacks from the same direction. The Zephyrians respond with the same defensive pattern. Then they shoot at each other until somebody runs out of ammunition and retreats." Marcus had studied the recordings. Torres was right. It was like watching the same movie over and over again. "What are you thinking, Commander?" Torres had smiled. "I am thinking that if you know exactly where your enemy is going to be, and exactly what they are going to do, you can put your troops in a position they never prepared for." Now, 6 months later, they were about to test that theory. "General, we are dropping out of hyperspace," Torres announced. Marcus felt the familiar sensation of the ship's faster-than-light drive shutting down. Through the small window in the cargo bay, he could see the Xerian system spread out before them. It was exactly as ugly as the recordings had suggested. The space around the 4th planet was filled with debris from centuries of battles. The planet itself was gray and lifeless, its surface scarred by weapons that had missed their targets. And there, in perfect formation, were the 2 fleets that had been fighting the same battle for longer than most civilizations had existed. The Zephyrian Crystal Fortress was a work of art and terror. It looked like a massive diamond floating in space, but Marcus knew it was packed with weapons that could destroy planets. Energy shields surrounded it like layers of colored light. Around the fortress, smaller crystal ships moved in patterns that would have been beautiful if they were not so deadly. The Hegemony fleet was harder to look at. Their bioships looked like living creatures, all teeth and claws and weapons that seemed to grow from their hulls. They pulsed with internal light and left trails of organic matter behind them as they moved. Some of the larger ships were breeding smaller vessels even as Marcus watched. "Both fleets are moving into their standard attack positions," Torres reported. "The battle will begin in 3 hours, just like it has every 47 days for the past 47 years. Marcus activated his communicator. All units, this is General Steele. Operation Chaos begins now. The plan was simple in concept but insane in execution. Instead of trying to help one side or the other, the human force would attack both sides simultaneously. More importantly, they would attack from directions and with weapons that neither side had prepared for. The human fleet was small compared to the alien armadas. 12 ships, each carrying a mix of human soldiers and alien allies who had volunteered for what most considered a suicide mission. But small could be an advantage if it meant being underestimated. Human vessels, this is Crystal Singer Vorlith of the Zephyrian Defense Force, came a voice over the communication system. You are entering a combat zone. Withdraw immediately or you will be caught in the crossfire. Human ships, this is Bio Admiral Krex of the Hegemony Warfleet, came another voice. This system belongs to us. Leave now or be destroyed, Marcus smiled. Both sides were so focused on each other that they were treating the human fleet like a minor annoyance. This is General Marcus Steele of the Human Expeditionary Force. He broadcast on all frequencies. We are here under authorization of the Galactic Council to attempt a resolution of this conflict. There was a pause. Then both alien commanders spoke at once. Impossible! Outrageous! Gentlemen, I suggest you review the Council's Emergency Resolution 2847C, Marcus said calmly. You will find that humanity has been granted the right to intervene in stalemate conflicts, where both parties have been unable to achieve resolution for more than 50 years. This was technically true, though it had taken months of legal arguments and political pressure to get the resolution passed. The Galactic Council was desperate enough to try anything, even if it meant letting a primitive species interfere in the galaxy's greatest war. General, both fleets are powering weapons, Torres reported. I think we have their attention. Marcus looked out at the two alien fleets. For 300 years they had followed the same patterns, fought the same battles, achieved the same pointless victories and defeats. Today something different was going to happen. Commander Torres, begin the attack run. All units, execute Chaos Protocol. What happened next had never been seen in the history of galactic warfare. The human ships did not form up in battle lines. They did not maintain optimal firing positions. They did not follow any of the accepted rules of space combat. Instead, they scattered in all directions like a flock of startled birds. Two human ships dove toward the planet, using its gravity to slingshot around to attack the Zephyrian fortress from below. 3 more ships headed straight for the Hegemony bioships, but instead of opening fire, they broadcast surrender signals while preparing ramming attacks. The remaining ships did something that horrified both alien fleets. They opened fire on empty space. What are they shooting at? Crystal Singer Vorleth demanded. Unknown targets, her tactical officer replied. Our sensors detect no enemy vessels in those locations. What the Zephyrians did not know was that the humans were firing at locations where they knew the alien ships would be in 10 minutes, based on 3 centuries of recorded battle patterns. Meanwhile, Marcus and his strike force were doing something that violated every principle of modern warfare. They were boarding shuttles and preparing to assault enemy ships in person. General, this is insane, his aide said as they strapped into the shuttle. Both fleets have automated defenses that will destroy us before we can get close. That is exactly what they are designed to do, Marcus agreed. Destroy incoming missiles and energy weapons. But they are not designed to stop boarding shuttles that look like space debris. The human shuttles had been modified to look like chunks of destroyed ships. As far as the alien sensors were concerned, they were just more wreckage in a system that had been a battlefield for half a century. Approaching the Zephyrian fortress, the shuttle pilot reported. No response from their defensive systems. Marcus looked through the shuttle's window at the crystal fortress. Up close, it was even more beautiful and terrifying than he had imagined. Light moved through its structure like blood through veins. Weapons that could crack planets were built into formations that looked like flower petals. But Marcus was not looking at the weapons. He was looking for something much simpler. There, he said, pointing to a section of the fortress that looked different from the rest. The docking bay. Sir, that is protected by energy shields that can stop anything up to and including small asteroids. Marcus smiled. Yes, but are they designed to stop 12 humans with crowbars? The shuttle docked with a gentle bump that sent vibrations through the crystal structure. Marcus led his team through the airlock into a corridor that looked like the inside of a giant gem. The Zephyrian crew they encountered were completely unprepared for hand-to-hand combat. Their weapons were designed for ship-to-ship battles across thousands of kilometers. When humans with simple projectile weapons suddenly appeared in their corridors, they had no idea how to respond. "Surrender your ship," Marcus told the first group of crystal beings they met. "Impossible," their leader replied. "This fortress cannot be taken by boarding action. Our defenses," Marcus fired a single shot from his sidearm. The bullet shattered one of the light panels in the wall, plunging part of the corridor into darkness. The Zephyrians stared in shock. Their energy shields, designed to deflect the most powerful weapons in the galaxy, had been completely bypassed by a simple piece of metal traveling at chemical velocity. "Your defenses are designed to stop energy weapons," Marcus explained. "This is a kinetic weapon, different physics entirely." Within an hour, the human boarding parties had taken control of key sections of both the Crystal Fortress and 3 hegemony bioships. It was not that human weapons were superior to alien technology. It was that alien defenses had never been designed to handle human weapons. But the real breakthrough came when Marcus reached the Fortress Command Center. "Crystal Singer Vorlith," he said to the alien commander, "I need to show you something." Marcus activated a human data pad and showed her the tactical display. "For 47 years, you have been fighting the same battle. Your ships move to these positions. The hegemony attacks from that direction. You respond with these weapon patterns." Vorlith's crystalline features showed confusion. "These are optimal tactics based on centuries of analysis. They are predictable tactics that guarantee this war will never end," Marcus replied. "Look at what my people just did. We used weapons you had never prepared for, attacked from directions you did not expect, and took your fortress in 1 hour." "Primitive trickery," Vorlith said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Effective trickery," Marcus corrected. "The kind that wins wars instead of just fighting them." On the other side of the battlefield, similar conversations were happening aboard the hegemony bioships. Human Marines were explaining to confused alien warriors that sometimes the best strategy was to have no strategy at all. "General, we are receiving communications from both fleet commanders," Torres reported. "They want to talk." Marcus looked around the Crystal Command Center, then out at the space where 2 fleets had been fighting the same battle for longer than human civilization had existed. "Tell them we will meet on neutral ground," he said. "But first I want both fleets to stand down." "They will never agree to that," Vorlith said. Marcus smiled. "They will if they want their flagships back." For the first time in 300 years, the battle for the Xerian system ended not in stalemate, but in negotiation. Both fleets pulled back to safe distances while their commanders tried to figure out what had just happened. As Marcus prepared to meet with the alien leaders, he thought about something his old training instructor had said back on Earth. "The enemy always has a plan. Your job is not to have a better plan. Your job is to make sure their plan does not work." The Zephyrians and the hegemony had spent 3 centuries perfecting their plans. They had calculated every variable, prepared for every contingency, optimized every strategy. But they had never prepared for humans. And that, Marcus realized, might be the beginning of the end of the Void War. Outside the Crystal Fortress, debris from 3 centuries of battle drifted in the starlight. But for the first time in living memory, no new wreckage was being added to the field. The dance of death had been interrupted, and sometimes Marcus thought that was all it took. Admiral Patricia Iron Wolf Morrison stood on the bridge of her flagship Indomitable, watching 17 different battle displays at once. Each screen showed a different star system, where human forces were about to do something that had never been attempted in galactic warfare. Simultaneous attacks across 17 systems. All coordinated, all using tactics that neither the Zephyrian Empire nor the hegemony had ever seen before. "Admiral, all strike groups report ready," her tactical officer announced. Lieutenant Commander Jackson was young, but he had adapted to alien technology faster than anyone else in the human fleet. Patricia nodded, but her eyes remained fixed on the displays. 6 months had passed since General Steele's success at Xerion, and the galaxy had not been the same since. The humans had proven that the Void War could be disrupted, but disrupting a single battle was very different from changing the course of an entire galactic conflict. The Galactic Council had given humanity a new mandate: expand their intervention across multiple fronts simultaneously. If human tactics could break one stalemate, perhaps they could break them all. But Patricia knew this was more than just a military operation. This was a test of something much more dangerous than human weapons or human tactics. This was a test of human psychology applied on a galactic scale. Admiral, incoming transmission from Concordia Prime, the communications officer reported. Patricia touched the control that would connect her to the most important conversation of her life. Admiral Morrison, this is Mediator Krell of the Galactic Council. All systems are in position. The galaxy is watching. Patricia looked around her bridge at the mixed crew of humans and aliens who had volunteered for what most considered an impossible mission. Zephyrians worked alongside hegemony biotechnicians. Species that had been killing each other for 3 centuries were now working together to build weapons that violated every principle of modern warfare. Understood, Mediator. All human forces are ready to execute Operation Shockwave. Admiral, are you certain your forces can coordinate attacks across such a vast area of space? Patricia smiled. Mediator, humans have been fighting wars on multiple fronts for our entire history. We specialize in being too stupid to realize when something is impossible. She could hear what might have been amusement in Krell's alien voice. Very well. You have authorization to proceed. May whatever gods your species believes in watch over you. The connection closed. Patricia looked at her crew one more time. Ladies, gentlemen, and assorted beings of various species and energy states, she announced. Today we are going to do something that has never been done in the history of this galaxy. We are going to fight 17 different battles at the same time, and we are going to win all of them. Admiral, her aide said quietly. What if we lose? Patricia's smile widened. Then we lose spectacularly, and the galaxy will remember us as the species that was brave enough to try. She turned to her tactical officer. Commander Jackson, begin Operation Shockwave. What happened next was the most coordinated military action in galactic history, and also the most chaotic. In the Vega system, human ships appeared out of hyperspace and immediately began broadcasting surrender messages while launching boarding pods at both fleets. The alien commanders were so confused by the contradiction between the messages and the actions that their response was delayed by crucial minutes. In the Altair sector, human forces did something even more baffling. They offered to sell weapons to both sides. When the fleet commanders came to examine the merchandise, they found themselves trapped in a meeting that had somehow become peace negotiations. But it was in the Riel system that Patricia achieved her greatest success. And it came from the most human approach possible. She cheated. Admiral, both fleets are moving into their standard battle formations, Jackson reported. The Zephyrian dreadnought Crystal Dawn is taking position at the Lagrange point. The hegemony bio-ship Devourer is approaching from the inner system. Patricia studied the tactical display. Like every other system in the Void War, Riel had its own pattern of eternal battle. The same ships in the same positions fighting the same engagement that had been repeated for decades. Have they noticed our ships yet? No, Admiral. We are maintaining stealth position behind the gas giant's largest moon. Patricia nodded. Human stealth technology was primitive compared to most galactic species, but it had one advantage. It was so primitive that advanced sensors sometimes did not recognize it as stealth technology at all. Time until they begin firing? 17 minutes, Admiral. Same as always. Patricia studied the battle projection. Both fleets would emerge from behind planetary bodies, exchange fire for approximately 6 hours, then retreat when ammunition ran low. Next month they would do exactly the same thing, but this time they would have company. All ships, this is Admiral Morrison, begin attack pattern Delta. The human fleet split into 3 groups, each using a different approach that violated established military doctrine. The first group accelerated toward the battle zone at maximum speed, with no stealth whatsoever. They broadcast their approach on all frequencies and even announced their attack plan to anyone who would listen. The second group maintained stealth and positioned themselves where the alien ships would retreat to when the battle ended. The third group, led by Patricia herself, did something that horrified every military analyst who witnessed it. They flew directly between the 2 alien fleets just as the battle was about to begin. Admiral, this is Crystal Commander Zephyr of the Crystal Dawn, came a transmission. Are your ships malfunctioning? You are directly in our line of fire. Admiral Morrison, this is Biogeneral Krex of the Devourer, came another message. Your vessels will be destroyed if you remain in that position. Patricia opened a channel to both fleets simultaneously. "Gentlemen, I am Admiral Patricia Morrison of the Human Expeditionary Force. I am here to offer you both a choice." "What choice?" both commanders asked at the same time. Patricia smiled. This was the moment she had been planning for months. "You can continue fighting each other as you have for the past 38 years. Same battle, same position, same results. Or you can fight us instead." The silence that followed was the longest Patricia had ever heard on a military channel. Finally, Crystal Commander Zephyr spoke. "You wish us to attack your small fleet instead of each other?" "I wish you to try," Patricia replied. "If you can defeat us, we will leave and never return. But if we defeat you, you both agree to a ceasefire and negotiate an end to this conflict." Bio General Krex's voice carried what the translator interpreted as disbelief. "Your 12 ships against our combined fleets of over 200 vessels?" "Those are the terms," Patricia confirmed. Another long silence. Then both alien commanders began laughing. Patricia's translator had difficulty processing the sounds, but the meaning was clear enough. "Very well," Zephyr said. "We accept your challenge. It will be educational to demonstrate human military incompetence." "Agreed," Krex added. "Perhaps destroying you will provide more entertainment than our usual stalemate." Patricia looked around her bridge. Her crew was staring at her with expressions that ranged from admiration to concern for her sanity. "Admiral," Jackson whispered, "we are outnumbered 20-1. "Exactly," Patricia whispered back, "which means they are going to underestimate us completely." She opened the general communication channel again. "Gentlemen, let me explain the rules of engagement. You may use any weapons, any tactics, any strategies you choose. We will do the same. And what prevents us from simply overwhelming your small force with superior numbers?" Zephyr asked. Patricia's smile became predatory. "Nothing at all. Please try." What followed became known as the Battle of Rigel, though military historians would debate for centuries whether it should be classified as a battle, a demonstration, or an elaborate practical joke. The combined Zephyrian hegemony force attacked the human fleet with overwhelming firepower and perfect coordination. Their energy weapons lit up space like artificial suns. Their tactics were flawless examples of galactic military doctrine, and they completely failed to hit a single human ship. The problem was that human vessels were not moving according to any recognizable pattern. They accelerated and decelerated randomly. They changed direction for no apparent reason. They fired their weapons at empty space, then suddenly appeared in completely different locations. "What are they doing?" Bio General Krex demanded, as his targeting computers failed to lock onto the chaotically moving human ships. "Unknown," Zephyr replied. "Their movement patterns make no tactical sense." What the aliens did not understand was that the human ships were not following tactical doctrine at all. They were following something much older and more primitive: instinct. Patricia had trained her pilots in what she called fighter-pilot tactics, rapid, unpredictable maneuvers based on split-second decisions rather than calculated strategies. Her ships moved like Earth fighter aircraft in atmospheric combat, using three-dimensional thinking that treated space like an ocean of air. But the real surprise came when the human ships began their counterattack. Instead of targeting the alien vessel's weapons or engines, they aimed at something much simpler: the communication arrays. "All ships execute communication blackout protocol," Patricia ordered. Within minutes, the combined alien fleet had lost the ability to coordinate their attacks. Ships designed to work in perfect harmony suddenly found themselves operating independently, without the constant stream of tactical data they had relied on for centuries. The effect was immediate and devastating. Zephyrian ships began firing at positions where they expected hegemony vessels to be, based on outdated information. Hegemony bioships struck at targets that were no longer there. Within an hour, the perfectly coordinated enemy fleet had become a collection of individual ships struggling to adapt to chaos. "This is impossible," Crystal Commander Zephyr broadcast on emergency frequencies. "How are you disrupting our tactical networks?" Patricia's reply was heard across 17 star systems, as human forces executed similar tactics simultaneously. "We are not disrupting anything," she said. "We are just refusing to let you fight the war you know how to fight." The human fleet's weapons were a mixture of technologies that should not have worked together. Zephyrian energy shields powered human kinetic weapons. Hegemony bioarmor protected ships that fired chemical explosive rounds. Most galactic engineers would have called the combinations impossible, but impossible combinations were humanity's specialty. "Admiral, the alien fleets are requesting ceasefire," Jackson reported. Patricia looked at the tactical display. In less than 3 hours, her small fleet had neutralized a force 20 times their size without destroying a single enemy vessel. They had not won through superior firepower or advanced technology. They had won by being impossible to predict. "Accept their ceasefire," she ordered, "and patch me through to both commanders." When the connection was established, Patricia could hear the confusion in both alien voices. "How?" Bio-General Krex asked simply. Patricia thought about her answer carefully. What she said next would be transmitted across the galaxy to every species watching humanity's intervention in the Void War. "We won because we did not try to fight better than you," she said. "We won because we fought differently than you. For 300 years, this galaxy has been locked in patterns that guarantee eternal war. Today, we broke those patterns. But how do we know this approach will work elsewhere?" Zephyr asked. Patricia smiled. "Because my forces just used similar tactics in 16 other star systems simultaneously, and we won every single engagement." The silence that followed was broken by a new voice, Mediator Krell of the Galactic Council. "Admiral Morrison, this is Concordia Prime. We are receiving ceasefire declarations from all 17 battle zones. Repeat, all 17 engagements have ended in human victory." Patricia looked around her bridge at the mixed crew that had just achieved the impossible. Humans and aliens working together to end a war that everyone thought was eternal. "Mediator Krell, please inform the Galactic Council that humanity is ready to begin the next phase of our intervention." "And what is that, Admiral?" Patricia looked out at the space where 2 fleets had been fighting the same battle for 38 years, and where they would never fight again. "Teaching this galaxy something they seem to have forgotten," she said. "How to make peace." In 17 star systems across the galaxy, ancient battlefields fell silent for the first time in living memory. Ships that had been locked in eternal combat began talking to each other instead of shooting, and in the command centers of both the Zephyrian Empire and the Hegemony, military leaders were asking themselves the same question that would reshape galactic civilization. If these humans could end 17 stalemates in a single day, what else might they be able to accomplish? The answer would change everything. A war no one could stop until humans brought their war machines unleashed. Admiral James Harrison stood in the observation lounge of the human flagship Indomitable, watching something that had not been seen in the galaxy for over 300 years. Representatives from the Zephyrian Empire and the Hegemony were sitting at the same table, talking instead of shooting at each other. The peace negotiations had been going on for 6 months. 6 months of arguments, accusations, and threats that sometimes came close to restarting the war. But they were still talking, and that was more progress than anyone had made in 3 centuries. "Admiral, we have a problem," Commander Torres said, joining him at the window. Harrison looked at his old friend and fellow officer. Torres had been with him since the beginning of humanity's involvement in the Void War. She had seen every battle, every negotiation, every small victory that had led to this moment. "What kind of problem?" Torres handed him a datapad. "Intelligence reports from the outer systems. There are still automated defense networks out there, left over from the early years of the war. Ancient AI systems that have been fighting their own battles for decades, with no organic crews to call them off." Harrison studied the reports. The automated systems were scattered across dozens of star systems, continuing to fight a war that their creators had forgotten about. Some were Zephyrian crystal ships that had been abandoned when their crews died. Others were hegemony biovessels that had evolved beyond their original programming. "How many?" Harrison asked. "At least 50 separate networks. Maybe more. They are not responding to ceasefire orders from either side." Harrison nodded grimly. He had expected something like this. In a war that had lasted 300 years, there were bound to be loose ends. Systems that had been forgotten, weapons that had been left running, battles that continued simply because no one had thought to turn them off. "Have you briefed the negotiating teams?" "That is where it gets complicated," Torres said. "Both sides are claiming the automated systems belong to the other side. The Zephyrians say the bioships prove the Hegemony cannot control their own weapons. The Hegemony says the crystal ships show that Zephyrian AI technology is inherently dangerous." Harrison sighed. "And neither side wants to take responsibility for shutting them down. Worse than that, Both sides are saying that if the automated systems attack anyone, it will void the ceasefire. Harrison looked back out the window at the negotiating table. Crystal Singer Vorlith of the Zephyrian Empire was arguing with Bio-Admiral Krex of the Hegemony about territorial boundaries. They had been having the same argument for 2 weeks. How long before one of these automated systems encounters a civilian target? Torres checked her datapad. Our computer models suggest less than a month. There is a major shipping route that passes through the HFY system. That is where we have detected the largest concentration of automated defenses. Show me. Torres activated a holographic display that appeared in the air between them. The HFY system looked like a graveyard. Dozens of dead ships drifted around a red star, their hulks forming a maze of debris and danger. The automated systems have been fighting each other here for over 70 years, Torres explained. Every few months, new ships arrive from automated factories that are still producing war materials. The battle just keeps growing. Harrison studied the display. In the center of the system, he could see flashes of light as weapons continued to fire at targets that had been destroyed decades ago. What happens if a civilian transport stumbles into that? It gets destroyed automatically. The AI systems are programmed to attack anything that is not specifically identified as friendly. After 70 years, their identification systems are so corrupted that they shoot at everything. Harrison turned away from the window. Then we shut them down. Admiral, the negotiating teams want to handle this diplomatically. Both sides insist they can recall their automated systems if given enough time. How much time? The Zephyrians estimate 6 months. The Hegemony says 2 years. Harrison shook his head. We do not have 2 years. We might not have 2 weeks. He walked back to the window and looked at the alien diplomats still arguing about territorial boundaries. They had made progress, but they were still thinking like enemies instead of allies. Commander, prepare a mixed task force, human ships supported by volunteers from both sides. We are going to clean up the mess that 300 years of war left behind. Torres looked surprised. Sir, both negotiating teams will object. They want to handle their own automated systems. Then they should have handled them 70 years ago, Harrison replied. The war is over, but the war machines do not know that yet. Someone has to tell them. 3 days later, Harrison found himself aboard the human destroyer Resolution, leading a fleet that would have been impossible 6 months earlier. Human ships flew alongside Zephyrian crystal vessels and Hegemony bioships. Engineers from 3 different species worked together to solve problems that none of them could handle alone. Admiral, we are approaching the HFY system, reported Lieutenant Commander Sarah Kim, the ship's navigation officer. Harrison looked at the main display. The system looked even worse up close than it had in the holographic projections. Debris fields stretched for millions of kilometers. Some of the wreckage was so old that it had been fused together by radiation and gravity into artificial asteroids. And in the middle of it all, the automated systems continued their endless war. Sensors are detecting at least 30 active combat units, the tactical officer announced, both Zephyrian and Hegemony designs. They are engaging each other continuously. Harrison opened a communication channel. All automated units, this is Admiral James Harrison of the Human Expeditionary Force. By joint order of the Zephyrian Empire and the Hegemony Alliance, you are commanded to stand down immediately. The response was immediate and violent. Energy beams lanced through space toward the human fleet. Biomissiles launched from hidden positions among the debris. The automated systems had identified the newcomers as hostile and were responding with lethal force. Evasive maneuvers, Harrison ordered. Do not return fire unless absolutely necessary. The human ships scattered, using the chaotic movement patterns that had served them so well in previous battles. But this time they were not trying to defeat the enemy. They were trying to save them. Admiral, I am reading massive power fluctuations from the automated systems, the science officer reported. Their reactors are operating far beyond safe parameters. Some of these ships are literally falling apart. Harrison nodded. He had expected this. Automated systems running without maintenance for decades would be barely functional. The fact that they were still fighting at all was a testament to their original engineering. Crystal Singer Thyron, are you receiving this data? Harrison asked, opening a channel to the Zephyrian ship in his fleet. Yes, Admiral. Those power signatures indicate imminent reactor failure. The automated systems are dying. Bioengineer Vex, what about the Hegemony units? Their biological components are severely degraded, came the reply from the Hegemony vessel. Genetic cascade failure is inevitable within days. possibly hours. Harrison looked at the tactical display. The automated systems were not just fighting each other. They were dying while they fought. 70 years of continuous combat had pushed them beyond their limits. All ships' new plan. We are not here to destroy these systems. We are here to put them out of their misery. What followed was the strangest battle in galactic history. The combined human-alien fleet moved through the debris field, not to destroy the automated systems, but to help them shut down peacefully. Zephyrian engineers used harmonic frequencies to calm the crystal-based AI units, convincing them that their mission was complete. Hegemony biotechnicians transmitted genetic codes that would allow the bioships to enter hibernation mode. Human technicians did what they did best. They found the power switches and turned everything off. "Admiral, we have successfully shut down 15 automated units," Commander Torres reported. "But there is a problem with the largest system." Harrison looked at the main display. In the center of the debris field, a massive structure was still active. It looked like a space station, but it was moving like a ship. Parts of it were clearly Zephyrian crystal technology, but other sections appeared to be hegemony bioengineering. "What is that thing?" Crystal Singer Thyron's voice carried amazement. "Admiral, that appears to be a hybrid system. Zephyrian and hegemony technology integrated into a single unit. That should be impossible," bioengineer Vex added. "Our technologies are incompatible. They cannot function together." Harrison stared at the hybrid vessel. "Unless they learn to adapt. 70 years of fighting in the same system, salvaging parts from each other's wreckage. They built something new. The hybrid system was approaching their fleet, but it was not attacking. Instead, it was broadcasting on multiple frequencies simultaneously. "Unknown vessels," came a voice that sounded like a mixture of crystal chimes and organic growling. "Identify yourselves. Are you friend or enemy?" Harrison looked around his bridge. His crew included humans, Zephyrians, and hegemony engineers all working together. Just like the hybrid system, they had learned to combine incompatible technologies into something new. "This is Admiral Harrison. We are friends. The war is over." "War over?" The hybrid system's voice carried confusion that spanned multiple species. "But war is purpose. War is function. Without war, what is reason for existence?" Harrison felt a chill. This automated system had been fighting for so long that it could not imagine any other existence. "There are other purposes," Harrison said gently. "Other functions. The galaxy is rebuilding. There is work to be done that does not involve fighting." "Work? What work?" Harrison looked out at the debris field that surrounded them. 70 years of battle had left the system filled with valuable materials and advanced technology. With the right approach, it could be cleaned up and made useful again. Salvage work, construction, exploration, teaching other systems how to combine different technologies, like you have learned to do. The hybrid system was quiet for a long time. Harrison could see its sensors scanning their mixed fleet, analyzing the combination of human, Zephyrian, and hegemony ships. "You work together? Different species? Different technologies?" "Yes," Harrison replied. "Just like you have learned to combine crystal and bioengineering. The war taught you to adapt. Now peace will teach you to build." Another long pause. "Admiral Harrison," the hybrid system finally said. "Request permission to join your fleet." Harrison smiled. "Permission granted. Welcome to the new galaxy." One by one, the remaining automated systems in Kethvar shut down peacefully or requested to join the reconstruction efforts. Some were too damaged to save, but even those provided valuable materials for rebuilding. 3 weeks later, Harrison stood in the same observation lounge where the crisis had begun. But now, instead of looking at alien diplomats arguing about territorial boundaries, he was watching something much more hopeful. Through the window, he could see the first mixed-species colony being established on a former battlefield. Human children played alongside young Zephyrians and hegemony offspring. Engineers from all three species worked together to build structures that combined the best of each technology. "Admiral," Commander Torres said, joining him at the window, "the Galactic Council has officially declared the Void War over. Both the Zephyrian Empire and the Hegemony Alliance have signed the Treaty of New Geneva." Harrison nodded. The treaty had been signed aboard the Indomitable, with representatives from dozens of species witnessing the end of the galaxy's longest war. "What is our next assignment?" Torres asked. Harrison looked out at the colony where former enemies were learning to live together. "We teach them how to stay at peace. That might be harder than teaching them how to win wars. Harrison smiled. Maybe. But humans are good at impossible things. Outside the window, a group of children from 3 different species were playing a game that involved building something together instead of tearing it apart. They laughed as their creation fell down, then immediately started building it. Again, Harrison watched them and thought about everything humanity had accomplished since Captain Vasquez first encountered the Void War. They had broken 3 centuries of stalemate, not through superior technology or brilliant strategy, but through something much simpler. The refusal to accept that any problem was unsolvable. The galaxy was finally at peace. The war machines had been shut down or repurposed for construction. Former enemies were learning to work together. And somewhere in the outer systems, the hybrid AI that had learned to combine incompatible technologies was helping to build the first interspecies research station in galactic history. The Void War was over. But the work of building a peaceful galaxy had just begun, and that work would need the one thing humans had always provided, the stubborn belief that impossible things could be made possible. If you were just too stupid to know when to give up, the galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the best solution to an ancient problem was a fresh perspective, from someone who had never been told it was impossible. Harrison watched the children play. He realized that humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy was not their war machines or their tactics. It was their hope. And hope, as every human knew, was the most powerful weapon of all.